Hello and welcome back to the Consistency Club podcast. In today's episode, Matt and I are going to be discussing the importance of tracking data when it comes to your health journey. You have to have a plan and you have to know you're improving, but we're also going to kind of transition that into how can you manage your own recovery. For those that go on their health journey, you may resonate with this. Many people get to a stage of burnout for different reasons, but burnout and so using that data to be able to say, okay, I need to hold back now to manage my recovery, or I can push it a bit harder based on the data is an important metric to make sure you've got sustainability in your journey. So to start, Matt, let's just talk about very generally the importance of data tracking when it comes to anyone's health journey. Obviously, as health coaches, it's pivotal to our day to day. I think there's a bit of kind of mental resistance that builds up around data because it can feel like a bit of a chore, but
Yeah, it can.
you don't, without that view of whether you're progressing or whether it's what's going in nutritionally, what you're burning and expending in terms of energy, your performance in the gym, sleep, all of those things. It's really important. It's really hard to be able to manage anything and decide what to do next. So in your view, what's the most important thing about the data tracking element, and how can people make it, how can they advocate it in their life and enjoy the process rather than it feeling like a chore? I guess is a good place for us to start.
The easiest thing is if because it is a chore to a certain extent. No, it is a chore. There's all kinds of certain
Yeah.
extent it is. I think having things like a Whoop or a fitness tracker that gives you a little bit of feedback, even if it's heart rate variability, if some of them give them like your resting heart rate at night or sleep score. Admittedly, they're probably not overly accurate, but it gives you a good idea what's
It's
going
the
on.
trend lines, isn't it?
Exactly that. And I
Yeah.
think an easy win is to get one of them and use whatever data produces you as a pinch of salt. Because 9 times out of 10, we wake up and you kind of feel, most of you feel, I feel good or I feel bad. You kind of know it yourself. And sometimes it's nice to have, it goes two ways, to look at a watch or a Whoop and say, actually, yeah, how I feel is reflected on the data. But also at the same time, there's times I've woke up, felt great, looked at my watch, and it's like, you've slept like shit.
Yeah.
Like, go back to bed. And I think, actually, do I not? So it's using something like that as the tool, but not allowing that to fully override how you feel.
It's difficult as well, isn't it? Because there will be millions of people right now who have a Fitbit, a Garmin, an Apple Watch, a Whoop, an Aura Ring, all of these things, a bit of shiny object syndrome. They've been marketed. They've
Yeah.
bought the thing. They might have used it and looked at it and found it interesting. And maybe they have used some of the data sets, but now it's still there, but it's not being
It's not being
used as a
used, yeah.
tool.
I think the thing is with it, you've got to buy into the why you're doing it, I think.
Yeah.
I think back to everything we talk about, there has to be a buy-in for it and there has to be an appreciation. And I guess our role as health coaches is to explain them little things, really. Explain what your resting heart rate means. If that's now raising, what does that mean? Explain if your sleep score is bad, how that's going to impact things. And it's most of the time, in my experience, when you speak to people about tracking or even just like, okay, what time did you go to bed? What time did you wake? You know, how between 1 and 10, how restful did you feel? How did you? It's little things like, did you have dreams? What were the dreams like? You can go really far into detail, but it's basically about trying to reflect what's happened to that person, what those the trends are, and how that's going to impact them.
Yeah.
And it's making the data make sense, basically. And I think it takes time for people to appreciate it. But things like heart rate variability is obviously a big buzzword bingo. Whoops do supposedly do it really, really well. Garmin's do it fairly well. And that's kind of, if you're going to pick something to track, that's probably the most
Yeah.
important thing, just because your sleep impacts that, the stress of the day impacts that, your physical load of what you've done, everything will impact that. And it's kind of an umbrella marker. And you basically say, look, if this drops, you're too stressed.
Yeah.
If this elevates past outside of a range, we're probably not doing enough. There's probably more in the tank. And that's kind of an easy way to gauge to somebody or make sense of one data point, which encompasses lots of different things.
That's a good point. Like you said, it's the easiest thing to look at and say, if I'm going to track one thing, that's the thing
one.
that could, because it will take into account everything you've said, your strain from training, your stress from the day, how well you've slept. All of those things will pretty much be reflected, even what you've eaten. If you're dehydrated and if you ate refined carbs and smash them before bed, it'll impact your heart rate variability.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. And as you said, it is a buzzword, but if there's one thing any of you guys listening were going to track, if your mind's a little bit muddled with the other stuff,
Just take that.
look at your heart rate
Yeah.
variability and use it as a metric. And as Matt said, it's not necessarily accurate. The number in terms of the milliseconds isn't going to be perfect, but it will sit within a range. If it increases or decreases by a certain amount for your level, you can see the trend line, and that's the important bit. So going back to what you said at the start of that kind of piece was about the intent around it. So it's probably less about having the technology
Yes.
and it's showing you all this data. It's more about the goal
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're going for, and how does that data, if you haven't got that goal in sight and you
It's
don't
hard
know
to-
what the data is being
yeah.
used for, how do you apply it, I guess?
That comes back to, again, most people have a goal. Like for me, for us, for example, if I guess everyone's on their own journey, aren't they?
Yeah.
And my key thing, the reason I track things is performance based. So either work related stuff or the competitions I do, or just general sort of CrossFit. I know that the more recovered I am, the easier it is for me to perform at a high level. The less recovered I am, the harder it is. And also, the less recovered I am, my body's clearly in a sort of stress stage. If I then go and tax my central nervous system even more, or just exert myself for longer than I should, I'm basically impounding an already weakened state. So the key thing is to kind of recognize when you're on your journey is that, particularly people that we work with, sort of executives, people that are busy, is that we want to make sure whatever we're tailing, the programs we're tailing for people sits within the parameters of which they can manage. And what I mean by that is, the way I try to explain to people is, if you think about your life as a collective, like a pie, right? Food again.
Yeah.
It's a pie, isn't it? So if you think about, say, for example, you work a 10-hour day.
Yeah.
How much of that pie does that eat up? It might take up a quarter of that pie, right? So that's the working day's a quarter. You've got family, you've got kids, you've got responsibilities. How much does that take up? Well, it's a large part again. Maybe it's another quarter, right? Okay, so we've got 2 quarters now, or 2/3 of it. What is that last third? What is that, or what's them last 2 quarters? Do we have capacity to train? Ace, what does that look like? If you've got a third left, right, and I'm asking it to be, your sessions are half of your pie, you are going to become stressed.
Yeah.
In terms of your central nervous system, physiologically, you are going to be taking so much more demand than you can
It's
actually
that kind of
sustain.
energy cross section with time
Exactly
equation,
that, yeah.
basically, isn't it? Like you said, if you look at some of our clients on planes all the time, international travel, across time zones, you see a red eye flight. We see it all the time. You see a red eye flight, and I will always see resting heart rates through the roof.
Yeah.
Obviously, sleep's terrible. Heart rate variability is down like 60-70%.
Which is huge.
If you're gonna, and this is also where the mind, so that energy, time, and mindset kind of need to come into play. For the mind perspective, I want you to land.
Yeah.
I want you to find a fucking way to get a session done.
Yeah, get something in.
Because I want that momentum.
Yeah.
From you protecting your energy and recovery, it might not be the most sensible thing to do. I think this is where a lot of people with going on their own journey with the data sets, it can be confusing, and why probably the technology, it may get used at the start, but eventually it kind of fades out,
Yeah.
and you get a load of cognitive dissonance and resistance against it, because you're like, I don't fucking know whether I'm coming or going with this thing.
Yeah. And it's
I feel
it's
all
up
right,
and
it tells
down.
me I'm shit.
Yeah.
I feel shit, it tells me I'm all right. Like, I think overcoming that is important, and the only way you do that is by having the goal.
Yes, it is.
Hypothetical goal of, I want to lose 10 kilos.
Yeah.
Brilliant. When you're going to lose 10 kilos, you're going to have to sit in an energy deficit. Is there going to be value to you getting off a red eye flight and going and doing something in the gym? Even if it's a low taxing incline walk at zone 2,
100%.
then yes.
Yeah.
If your goal is going to be VO2 max building, strength building, 5-2-1, that kind of thing,
Probably not.
Probably not. So
It's too much again.
Exactly.
Like we said before, it comes back to what you're asking your body to do with the available energy. You could probably go and do that, and you'd be fine today.
Yeah.
But it's the compound effect of how it affects tomorrow, how it affects the next day. And that's when we look at a long-term goal, it's not just a here and now. We've got to think macro. What
Yeah.
is the overall goal? Because I've done it many times. I'm like, right, you know what? I want to get on X, Y, and Z. I'm going to train 3 times a day. Smash myself into the ground Monday. Tuesday, wake up thinking, fuck me, I'm sore. Right, I'm going to do just a session and a half. Do that. Thinking, fucking, I wake up Wednesday. I'm like, well, I am sore as shit. I'll just do one more session, do that session, wake up Thursday, I'm like, I am fucked.
Yeah.
And it takes me till Saturday to walk normally again.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just gone, actually, what I'm gonna do is instead of doing massively acute loading on the Monday, I'll take one and a half of that and
Just spread the volume.
100%.
Yeah.
And in say example, you're a busy person, you work and you know, right, okay, I'm not I've got a flight on Tuesday morning, everything's disrupted. It's not possible to train again till Friday, then you know what? It might be a reasonable thing, and with like protein synthesis and how we build muscle, to front load heavy on the
Yeah.
Monday, knowing that actually we're not gonna do anything until Thursday. That's, a tactic, that's a tool in the toolbox. But again, it's specific situations
Yeah.
and conditions that allow it to happen. Not me being the knobhead going, you know what, I'll just keep adding more
Yeah.
volume and intensity and see what happens. Because the wheels fall off massively.
Yeah, you've got to be able to hold yourself back. There'll be, I'm sure people listening, they'll hold myself back. I can't get myself going. But there'll be people on the other
It's
contrary of
way
that.
too much.
Yeah, in fact, I've worked with a woman at the moment. She's absolutely brilliant. But when she came on board, her thing was, look, hold me back because
Yeah.
whatever you give me, I will do because it's how I'm wired and how I'm programmed. And she's in sales and she's at home Monday, she gets back Friday, midweek, every single week she's gone, she's traveling, she's on the road, so she's super busy. But she was like, if it's there, I'll
do it.
find a way to get it done, which
Yeah.
I love that mindset. But again, she, at a point of just burnout and frustration, then you capitulate, you don't do anything. So
Yeah, it's too much.
dial back the intensity. Find that beautiful word there. Because you have
It's
to, though, don't you?
100%.
You
Yeah,
can't
definitely.
get to that with all out 100% intensity day in, day out. So you've got to be smart with it. But going back to the data, this is my belief with data. Interested to get your opinion. I think those which is probably most people, don't like data entry and they don't like the tracking, they don't like that stuff,
Yeah.
is because they don't commit to it properly. And when you don't
Yeah.
commit to it properly,
Can't do it.
a day on, day off,
Yeah.
you haven't got like a spreadsheet where you put the data and you're just looking at it. You get that cognitive dissonance. You're not acting in alignment with your values. You,
Yeah.
as a value, you are someone who executes and does stuff properly. But in this area, you can't seem to find it. So you get this frustration. It's like, I fucking hate data entry. It's just annoys and annoying. And I don't want to have to do it. If you just commit to it properly, okay, I'm going to spend 3 minutes. I'm going to get up my laptop, check the Garmin or whatever it is. Right, spreadsheet, HRV, XYZ,
Yeah.
put it in. And you do that every single day. You get a positive feedback loop,
Yeah.
like
You
the
start doing it.
endorphins and serotonin from social media. So I've taken positive action. It took me no time at all.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at the data in front of me going, yesterday was that. Today's this. I feel XYZ and I've got this on my schedule. You can start to self-manage.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, and I've, done it for many years, when you do that, it feels good. It's like a source of power
It's
within
energy.
your
It's
life.
fueling,
Yeah.
isn't it? We said previously about making your own fuel. That's
Yeah.
that consistency of doing the thing. Because like you said, if you're on, off, on, off, on, off, it's like, what is the fucking point in
Yeah.
this? But if you're dialed in, like you said, 3 minutes, go through there, end of the week, you can naturally see a trend.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, Monday I felt great, Tuesday the big old day, felt crap Wednesday. You can start, like you said, you start to self-regulate, but ultimately it comes back to you can see the point. There's a purpose behind what you're doing because you're being consistent with the data entry. If you've not got that, like anything, you'll be like, what is the point in doing this?
Yeah.
I can't stick to it for whatever reason. What's the point?
Yeah. Especially if you're, mid-30s, 40s onwards, where you get the little aches and pains, you don't recover or perform in the way that you used to.
Yeah.
Like being smart and using a data-based approach, in my opinion, is maybe it's a strong sentence to say it's essential.
I think training smart it is.
Yeah.
If you look at high level athletes, like we're talking like elite level, all of them data track, all of them do something. And the reason they do that is they know it impacts performance. And so, scientifically, there is so much evidence for it.
It's like business though, isn't it? You track,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have KPIs,
Yeah.
you track your, financial performance and your forecasting, you do budgets, you look at
Review.
your P&L, you do your
Yeah.
reviews. It's exactly the same.
Exactly the
It's just
same.
taking that
Yeah.
approach. What What would you say is the best if someone's in a bit of a rut right now, they don't track the data, they've got a piece of technology that they could use, and their goal is, let's generalize this. Their goal is to get the next 5 to 10 kilos off, or 10 pounds. Let's reduce that number a little bit. 10 pounds in general. What tip, what recommendation would you give them just to get started on the data tracking without it feeling like kind of too much of a burden?
I think most trackers now will give you like, for example, what I think Whoop's body battery, isn't it?
No, Whoop is
Garmin's body
recovery
battery.
score.
Right, okay. So I'd take something like that, I'd ignore everything else.
Yeah.
And like we said, it's a pinch of salt, but we're talking base level at a glance. I take something like that, and if my score falls within a parameter, or say example, my body battery, I give it a perfect example, right? Cover night shift, 2 rough nights. Let's give a little number crunch. Right, so for example, Tuesday, right, my resting heart rate when I was asleep was 38, right? At home. Wednesday night, what was my resting heart rate, Jamie? 55.
Yeah.
Got woke 3 times in the night. Not great. Let's have a look at my sleep score. My sleep score's gonna be horrific.
Is
Body
your
battery,
sleep resting heart rate relaxed 38?
yeah, about that home. At work,
that's
it's about
solid.
72. Because
Yeah, I
I'm
can
sat waiting
imagine.
to go.
Yeah.
My sleep score last night, my body battery, I gained 57 whilst I was asleep, and I've drained 20 so far. So
The
it's,
body battery is interesting because you literally see it drop
yeah,
through the
it's
day, don't you?
draining.
Yeah.
And again, arbitrary figures, take a little bit of that. But what I'm trying to say is that's a little thing. If you wake up and you've had a stressful week and your body battery, like mine, you've got 57,
Yeah.
that's telling you that you've got a fairly finite amount of energy to do something. And if that means you've got a stressful day at work and that's your priority, then maybe that has to be the key thing. But that
Yeah.
doesn't exclude you from doing something. We know that, like I've already said, instead of having a high intensity session where you're working at 85, 90% of 1RM, it's not going to be that. It's going to be, right, go in the gym, 50% 1RM, just cruise, go
Yeah.
through some, longer rest times, essentially less intensity, not so much volume, just move.
It's
just
more
move,
flex the mental muscle of still getting there
of
to
doing
build
the
the
thing.
habit,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly that. And,
Yeah.
and you are still going to get some benefit from that, but it's about balancing the intensity you're working at and,
Yeah.
and the negative impacts of that, of where you're at.
Yeah.
Realistically, most people, if my body battery is 50 now, I could go and smash a workout and feel
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But like we said before, what is the knock-on
The
effect?
consequence is usually like 48, 72 hours after you
And
start to see that.
struggling.
Yeah. And on top of that as well, outside of like the wearable fitness tracker, as much as, some people, I say everyone's emotionally tied to this if they're going on a fat loss journey, but you do need to weigh yourself.
Yeah.
Like, have a view on how your body's reacting. Understand it's not going to be linear. It's going to go up or down. You don't necessarily have to weigh every single day, but for a valuable data set that takes 20 seconds to get you stand on the scale, you get the feedback.
Yeah.
I'd say that
helps. And thing is, time of day as well. Like, my big thing is, if you're gonna weigh yourself, I always say, right, weigh yourself every single day.
Yeah.
But the key ones I'm interested in is like a Sunday to Sunday or a Monday to Monday,
Yeah.
whatever it is, because Monday to Monday is interesting because that encompasses the weekend.
Yeah.
And if people are going to capitulate and fall down, it's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if people know Monday morning I'm going to get on there, and that is the big one I'm worried about. That's the number that, the other ones are little sets in the data trend, but Monday's where it matters most.
Yeah.
I find that people tend to capitulate less on the weekend because they go, shit.
It's like the is it Weight Watchers or Slimming
I was literally
World,
about to say
where you
Weight
go-
Watchers. They weigh them up. Like,
you
here
go
comes
to-
Sandy, look.
Yeah,
Fucking
and
hell.
Sandy's put on 2 kilos.
2 kilos.
Everyone gives Sandy a round of
Yeah. Oh, come on, sit down, Sandy.
Oh,
I should tell you, I've honestly, I've tracked everything.
yeah, it's so funny.
I've not ate for a week.
How many sins did you have, Sandy?
Yeah. The best one was talking about tracking things. That video I sent you of that lady
Yeah.
said about, for context, there's a video I found and it talks about basal metabolic rates, the rate of energy that you consume at resting. So basically when they did all the science of this in like the 60s, they literally had people lie down and they analysed the gas analysis, dug out Douglas bags, basically collect loads of expired air, and they can tell you what energy you're burning, if it's carbohydrates, if it's fat, and the rate of which. And then that's how your basal metabolic calculators calculate based on height, weight, age, all that kind of stuff. There's a lady, and she's like, she a large lady, doesn't she? And
Yeah.
she goes, it's my metabolic health. I have a condition, it's just hereditary. I've got slow metabolism. And if she has the tests, and it's like, yeah, there's no wrong with your metabolism, love. No to do with that. It's
You're
bang
just
on
eating too
perfect.
much and not doing enough.
And then when
Yeah.
they calculate, she's like, okay, she basically said, she told the dietitian what she thought she'd ate in a day. And it was like, her basal's 2,000. She said she's eating 1,500. And she's like, BMI 40. And then when he actually tracked what she ate, it was like, your basal's 2,000, you maybe burn 300 extra calories, you're eating about 3,500 calories a day. So that's why it's just,
Crazy.
and for her though, you could tell up until that point, it was, I've just got,
Yeah.
my thyroid's
Just
terrible.
a genuine
genuine
belief,
belief of
didn't
it.
there? Yeah.
And then the moment the curtain's gone, it's like, fucking hell, right, maybe actually
That's
it
why
is
data
me.
is so important.
And exactly that.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the nutritional part of data.
Tracking your food.
Yeah, because for most of the people that we work with, the system is busy, don't really eat lunch, skip breakfast, inadvertently intermittent fasting, whatever. Then lunch is convenience food, or it's business lunches, or it's just stuff on the go. Maybe they provide some stuff in your office. Then it's nothing really until dinner, but nothing is usually some snacky bits, I
Yeah.
imagine. Get to dinner. By the time you've got home, with all the cortisol build up from the day and you're starting to get tired, you're absolutely ravenous.
Just getting stuff in your head.
They smash dinner, which
Yeah.
is, if it's not, God forbid, takeaway, it's going to be some home cooked food. But even if it's like the standard home cooked meal, like lasagnas and cottage pie, they're pretty shit, aren't they?
Not
Somewhat.
great.
They're not great.
Especially if you're not thinking about what goes into
No.
it. If you're thinking, if I went home and went to my mum cooks lovely food, right? If I just cook me the best thing, whatever,
Yeah.
right? It'll be loads of fat, loads of carbs,
Yeah.
some protein. Still,
Yeah.
we talk about ingredients list, limited, as organic and as clean as it can be, but it's the fucking
Yeah.
quantity of what's in it.
Yeah.
amount
And
of
you're
cheese.
starving by that point.
Yeah.
So you load the
You
plate
smash
with
it in
it.
your head.
And then after that, because again, you haven't eaten much during the day, you're like, fucking snacks, where's the snack cupboard?
Yeah.
Sweets and chocolates and crisps. And then before you know it, you might be some cereals and you've smashed 1,000 calories before bed. Then you're trying to sleep. Like,
Wired.
yeah. So on paper, the mind's going, well, I didn't have breakfast. Okay, yeah, I had that lunch, but it wasn't a big lunch. Because like convenience food is often that big,
Yeah.
is it? But
Or it's not filling.
yeah. I had dinner and okay, I had some snacks, I'm not overeating.
all right.
If you break it down, one, the nutritional values of what you're eating are terrible in terms of micronutrients, but undoubtedly you're eating 40% above what you think.
Yeah. And it's mad how you, like you said, you number crunch in your head. I always find it, I like getting people to, right, okay, you tell me what you've had in the day and I'll roughly crunch the numbers and you tell me how many calories you think you've had.
Yeah.
And I'll crunch it. I had one individual and there's like, yeah, mate, I've had about like 2,000 calories. It's like, fair play. So right, just send me through what you think you've had. How many do you think he's actually at?
2,700?
He's a big bloke, right? Like in 3,300. And most of which he drank like 2 cans of Monster.
Full fat.
Full shebang.
mate.
I was like, that's 100 grams, 110 grams of carbs in sugar.
I feel pretty terrible after the Monster Ultras. I can't imagine smashing a full fat
I can't.
sugar. I'm not sure I've ever had one. I must have had
I don't think
one
I
maybe
have.
in my
Maybe
time.
when I was a kid, maybe.
Yeah, the green ones.
But I just couldn't believe it. I was like, mate, you've just ate basically all like what you should be eating for your breakfast
Yeah.
and your lunch and carbohydrates in 2 cans of pop. So I was pretty thirsty. I went,
And the
"Fucking drink
mind's going,
water."
well, it's fluid. It's not food.
Exactly. I need that. I
Yeah.
need it to hydrate myself. And and again, unless like it comes back to tracking, unless you know what's actually going in, like right, businesses have accountants, don't they? To track what goes in,
Yeah.
what comes in. Your financial planners for a reason. A fitness tracker is that financial planner for your body.
Yeah.
What's going in? What have I done? What have I ate? What's going out?
Yeah.
How can I sum this up? And if, like anything, if you're losing more money than you're making, it's bad for business.
Yeah.
But if you're expending more energy than you're consuming, it's good for weight loss.
Yeah.
The caveat is, if you're 1,000 calories in a deficit, how sustainable, how consistent can you do that before you reach burnout? And not only that, we're going to be sort of talking about recovery and strain, is that the more we do, the more strain you apply on the body.
Yeah.
And if you do more and you take away lots of nutritional value, or lots of nutrients from your body in terms of calories and everything else, eventually, acutely, you can sustain that because we were built to survive, aren't we? We're built to survive spate conditions, so we'll be all right. But if you're 1,000 calories in the hole for a month, 2 months straight,
Yeah.
that knock-on effect is terrible.
Yeah.
It will put you in a hole.
It's just
That's
low energy. I experienced it when I did my natural bodybuilding comp,
we had a
and I
conversation
was
about it for us, didn't
what,
we?
19 at that age, and
Yeah,
I had no testosterone. I was absolutely ruined. It took me like 8 9 months to get back to feeling myself. So imagine if you're doing that at 40 or 50, you're already fighting that kind of that
yeah,
curve. Testosterone is dropping. You know, you're fighting sarcopenia. You got to be conscious as you age about bone density, and then you're just constantly underfueling yourself. But if people underfuel, it's usually because they resonate the fact they need to fix what they're eating,
yeah,
but there's no and they track what they eat, and I see this all the time. But there's still no preparation around it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
no sit down like we would with other stuff and going, okay, what's my week look like? Let me go shop for it. Let me prepare so I'm not wasting mental bandwidth
yeah,
on going and grabbing lunch or fuck what am I having for dinner. I actually know what I'm having and it's consumed and it's healthy, nutritious food and it's going to fuel me for the day and I feel good. It's that again mental muscle of like
yeah.
I need to dedicate the time. I'm too busy to dedicate the time to prep and I don't want to have to do it. But it's just I wish you could like, f- arm around someone's shoulder, fast forward time,
You
and
show
show
them,
them
yeah,
if they had just tracked and done it properly and paid due attention and prepared their food for the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, have a little bit more flexibility, and show them that I promise you fucking enjoy it.
yeah. This is
The
what it could have
feeling
been.
of
Yeah,
in that system you will enjoy, and it's not hard. You are just assigning just this stress and this resistance for no reason, but
yeah.
you have to go through it to experience it.
And there's no two ways about it. Is it? Like we said, all this stuff until you've done it and conquered it, it seems like the hill you can't get
Yeah.
over. And it's like and I think fitness tracking is say fitness tracking, sorry, food tracking is one of the hardest things to do because I remember I worked with an individual with bulimia, right? I have no
Mm,
understanding about like disordered eating. I've obviously heard about it, but I mean, did you really know any? I knew girls at school that potentially were bulimic, maybe, or
yeah.
there's always rumors, but I'd never worked with anybody up until I worked as an individual. I either worked with athletes or I worked with firefighters and
Yeah.
police officers, and most of them, if anything, fucking couldn't stop from eating cake and biscuits. If I'm
Yeah.
honest with you,
Yeah.
and this individual, it was the first time in which I remember kind of had the meeting one to one. Okay, what's your goals? This and that. And you want to lose weight. So okay, fantastic, great. Well, normally do tracking, blah blah blah. And literally towards, I like mapped it out, mate. And at the end of it, so I just want to let you know, I have bulimia, and I've been sectioned before, and I was like, holy fucking shit! I've literally just probably,
Probably should have started with
yeah,
that.
but I was like, oh,
Yeah.
someone with disordered eating and their relationship with food and how they perceive themselves and how they perceive food,
Mm,
I'd probably give the worst advice to this
yeah.
person without me even realizing. And I had to go back to the start and go, right, how do
Scrap
I,
that.
yeah, basically, yeah,
Yeah.
let me start again. So how do I, and it's one of the conversations where I said, look, I kind of it has to be some form of tracking. So, but what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to make some meal plans for you, some temple
Mm.
meal plans, and just literally in the end, it was just weight of food, and what it was,
Because there you've
nothing
got to,
else.
like, imagine you do this in the process. You have to get to a point where you do not, because it's easy to do this when you're trying to improve someone's health. You do not demonize
And
foods.
that's basic, and that was the problem. It's like,
Yeah.
and
Like, oh
it
my
was,
God, I've had a slice of cake. I need to, get that out of me.
and that was the thing, and it was little things like sort of because she wanted a holistic lifestyle change. I was very keen to say, right, okay, I'm not going to eliminate things from your diet. Like if you want to have a biscuit, you can have a biscuit.
Yeah.
It's like you said, not demonizing food. No, it's not elimination. It's about monitoring it and being sort of conscientious of your food choices. And I made that very clear to her. But it's kind of like how do you balance that? And thankfully, towards it got to a stage where actually just having a little bit more structure helped her,
Yeah.
helped her kind of understand. And the key thing was, the biggest takeaway I remember from the conversation with her is, after about a month, she said, now I've been eating, because you've given me the meal plans, I've pretty much ate. It was like meal plan, what, 1 and 3, which was like, I think like a minced meat one and like sort of pasta based one and a chicken and rice, basically, like as bro as it can come,
Yeah.
basically, with some fruit mixed in. She's like, I've been doing them pretty much alternatively. So like, the performance in the gym, her numbers were great in terms of like what she's lifting. The stuff we tracked were resting heart rate upon waking, so whatever, basically whatever a fitness tracker said, wear that to bed, and body batch was only 3 things I really worried about. And and to be fair, it's fairly consistent. But the big thing was her numbers were going up in the gym and she's losing weight. And she turned around and said, actually, her relationship with food's changed now, because I said, you got to see food as fuel. It's not anything else. For you, it's just fuel. You work a busy job, you want to train, you want to lose weight. In order to do all of that, we have to have fuel. You can't get in a car and have no diesel in it and expect to drive from here to Scotland. It's not going to work. So we need to put enough fuel in it to get us there. If you put too much fuel in it, it's no good.
And on the contrary to that, exactly what you're about to say. If you put unleaded in a diesel engine, you start filling yourself with complete shit all the time,
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's the realization for her that actually what I eat impacts my performance, which then impacts my mood. And like this compounding thing happened. And to be fair, I worked with her for a year. And at the end of it, she was, I mean, touch wood, disordered eating is always going to be there. But and she even said, like, the structure you've given me now is something, her relationship with food and how she perceives it it's fuel.
Yeah.
And every now and again, you can go and have a drink and go out with your friends and have food, and that's fine, because there's a baseline for her to return to. And I think that was the problem, is she had such a busy life, family, kids, job. There was no baseline. There's no foundation of which she can return to. Like, right, okay, this is the foundation. This is what I can eat. This is good for me. This helps me perform better, feel better. Return to that. Without that, and it's a little thing, without having that foundation and pitch, like we said, we have to build the foundation first, which is why at the start of any time we train with or work with somebody, there has to be fitness tracking. There has to be some form of data tracking to build that foundation, to give the accountability and the reflective point to review and say, look what you've started with. Look where you are now. Look what's changed. How do you feel? I feel better. Right, great. That's because of X, Y, and Z. And like we said, kind of going back to the start, the reason why we have to track the data, if we can track it, we can measure it. And by measuring it, we can see whether or not it's getting better or worse.
And you can improve it off the back of that.
Yeah.
Going back to the point around food, because you made the point, but it's an important one that I kind of reframe to clients all the time. You don't have to be tracking the meal out with your wife.
Nope.
Or the takeaway you get incrementally as a reward, or whatever. All those things should be part of your life. I feel like I personally feel like you've got to earn the right to get to that. Like, put a shift in, see some result, let's build the momentum, and then of course you want to live in balance. That's again how you find the consistency and that kind of sustainability cross section. But 80-20, 80% of the time food is fuel, 20% of the time food is pleasure. So when you're having your takeaway, you're having a beer with your boys or whatever, you're having cocktails with the girls, or you're going out for some food on a Friday evening to celebrate something, you shouldn't care less about tracking. You shouldn't care less about what's going in. If the 80%, your mindset, like you said, is food is fueling how I feel, my internal health, and how I'm going to perform. Because we've created this thing around food. It's social and it's $1 trillion industry and whatnot, but strip it back to the fundamentals. Go back to what we said in the previous podcast. Whole food sources, the whole food diet, 80% of the time. The 20% pleasure, the meals out, etc. I can go and enjoy them. Don't worry about
live your life.
And
that comes back to the 80%. That's your foundation. You've got a solid foundation you can return to, that is something you can stay consistent with. Like you said, 20% of the time, go and do whatever. Because you will return to your foundation, your roots.
And that foundation, to build that, you have to have tracked data.
You have to have gone through it.
Because that foundation fundamentally is a data set.
It's
okay, these are the calories I should be on, this is how much I was expending. These are my internal metrics and how I can balance them and perform. That's your foundation. It's so easy to fall off
Yeah, the
a health
biohacking.
routine.
Yeah.
So easy. It takes a couple of days and the mind's gone, oh, this is a bit fun. That devil on your
Yeah.
shoulder, the old you. Then it's a week, and then you're thinking, oh, fuck, I can't be bothered. How do I get back to tracking? I really don't want to do it. I can't, I've got no motivation to work out. If the foundation's there, you can sit down, you can look at some data, and you go, okay, that's the calories I was on. It was going well at that point. My recovery was way better. I feel good. It's kind of that reinforcement
Yeah.
to go, okay, that let me just commit to it back on Monday. Otherwise, you're kind of, horrible saying, but pissing in the wind a little bit.
But you are, because how would you, so mate, it's like me dropping you off in the middle of Wales, right,
Yeah.
Jamie, all the best, pal. Get your way home. You ain't got a compass. Like,
Yeah.
fucking, which way do I go? All the signs are in Welsh. Like,
Yeah.
right, okay, you just start walking.
Valleys and sheep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is that. You are pissing in the wind. We have to have, like everything, you have to have a goal, and data reinforces that.
Yeah.
What we track, we can measure. If we don't have that, mate, you might as well just start running and just
100%.
figure it out.
Let's give, to round the conversation up, let's give three. I'll give my three, you give your three. You might say I completely agree with you. Hopefully you do. Three best data sets for them to focus on and track and to put into a simple spreadsheet, and start tracking themselves. First and foremost, I would say track your nutrition.
Yeah.
Just use a tool like MyFitnessPal. There's AI tools out there. I think you can do this on MyFitnessPal. You can scan your plate. I wouldn't recommend it. I doubt it's that accurate at the moment. Scan the barcodes of the food. Try and be as accurate as you can with the weight. Don't worry about necessarily tracking when you go out for your meals. Just try and be good and get visibility of what's going in. That's first. So nutrition. Second would be your weight, because that tells you how your body is interacting with kind of the stimulus that you're giving it, whether it's information for training, how much you've eaten, how much you're expending, water retention because of hormonal balance for women, their cycle, time of the month, that's going to have a huge impact. Sodium intake, all of that stuff. So see the fluctuations, take note of them. And then it would be one of either heart rate variability or the general score that if you've got one that these give you. So like you said, a Whoop recovery score, a Garmin readiness score. What are the other ones?
I don't even know.
Does Apple doesn't do one, does it?
Apple just doesn't it? It gives you some. I thought it gives you an energy score, or is it closing circles?
It's closing circles throughout the.
Oh no,
the day.
Zoe and Char are in a group.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
it ends up like, so it's like, oh, Vicky's done this and Char's and that. I'm like, fuck me, it's like 7 a.m. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. I don't think they do have one, but if they've got a general one, take it, because it'll counter and everything. But if they don't, I mean, Apple does HRV. So
Yeah,
in fact, scrap that. Just do HRV, track your weight, and track your food.
yeah,
those three things.
I'd pretty much agree with you. I want to add the fourth in, because I was thinking, what else? All of them I completely agree with. The other thing I'd say is tracking your training in terms of if it's running distance, if it's running pace, if like a performance, because I'm all about performance.
Yeah,
That's what I like care about, is like how much weights are you lifting? If we've put in your workout that we need you to get 8 reps on 100 kilos, and you're now getting 7 or you're getting 6, and that's dropping, well, that's telling us actually your central nervous system is pretty cooked because you're not getting there.
There's a mindset or an energy issue.
Yeah, and it's then we can address that. And if it's a mindset thing, we can probably give you a strong tell into of what the importance of it is. But most of the time, the mind breaks because the body doesn't feel great. So for me, what you're lifting in the gym, if it's or it's pace or it's anything we're tracking in terms of your performance, that is like number one to me. If that starts dropping off, that tells me lots of other things. Either you're over training, you're under training potentially, particularly if I give you, right, go lift 100 kilos and I need 8 reps and you're doing 15, that probably tells me that actually we need to do a little bit more. So either we've undercooked it or you've undercooked it, but that gives us wiggle room.
Yeah.
If, like I said, if your run time, we wanted to run a 10-minute mile pace and you're running at 8 minutes and you're good to go, happy days. If you're wanting to run a 10-minute and you're doing it in 13, 14 minutes and you're telling me I've got nothing left in the tank, that's clearly telling me, right, we need to sort of shift the parameters around what's going on in your life. Maybe we have to review what's going on. And chances are with that, your HRV, your intake, there'll be other factors in there that tell us that, okay, performance is taking a knock. Like you might have dropped in terms of weight. If you've dropped like 4 or 5 pounds in a week, chances are your performance is going to look a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
So it's that holistic approach. All of them are important, but the big thing we can look at is how that affects us in the gym. And then most people
Yeah.
can feel that more so than the data entry initially at the start. Is what's the performance in the gym or on the track or on the running, whatever it is, how's that being impacted? And I think that kind of rounds off why we're doing it. We didn't so we can perform and feel better.
Yeah.
And if our journey is to lose weight, the more we do and the better we perform and the more we can lift, the better we look, the better we become. That kind of quite easily sows its own seed.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. Them three, and the fourth, I'd say, as a little add-on, which is maybe an umbrella to that, is what is your performance? How do you
Yeah,
feel?
of course. And that's in anything. If you are starting at a true baseline and it's, I just need to fucking move more. So you're tracking your steps, then
Yeah.
track that number. If that is, I want to get back to running, as I said, then track the distance, track your heart
Yeah.
rate, track your time, your splits. If that is resistance training, I want to get stronger. Absolutely, you have to track your lifts. So yeah, the training part is important as well. I think the first three fundamentally to get your mind locked into what the body is doing in terms of responding to stuff, and then adding in the, secret sauce to the recipe is, of course, training performance,
Yeah.
making sure you're getting better and you're not just stagnant. But first and foremost, commit to doing something.
Yeah.
And you've got to
pick one of them.
Yeah, and like anything, just going back to the training before we round up, going back to what we said earlier, you've got to have the plan. You can't track your training if you don't have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because if you're jumping around week on week, you're jumping around commitment. 1 week you just walk, 1 week I'll just go out for a quick run and run for 20 minutes, and then the next week you're doing a home circuit video watch along on YouTube. Like, you can't track whether you're getting better at that. So, and I say this to my clients all the time, training needs to get to a point where it feels monotonous. You have to do the same thing. I believe anyway. You've got to do the same thing, track it, let the body learn the motor pattern, get good at it, get to the point where it's like, I can't do any more, whether that's pushing, a split and running, whether that is lifting a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of reps, whatever it may be, and fight through that.
Yeah.
Rather than going every 4 weeks, I'm going to switch up my plans to get a little bit bored. I think, again, flex that mental muscle. It's how you do it, not necessarily what you do.
Yeah.
Of course, you've got to be goal specific. So dig in, embrace the monotony, just grit your teeth.
Consistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many personal trainers do you see? I remember when I used to go to commercial gyms, you'd see the same person 1 week they're doing back squats, next week they're doing fucking squats and a sissy ball, and next
full
week
of it in David Lloyd.
Mate, it's mad.
Yeah.
It's like, and I feel as if people, they get tricked thinking, oh, has to be new stimulus. Now, fuck that. Be consistent with what you're doing.
That's not the value. The value is the opposite.
Exactly that. Like you just said perfectly, is the consistency of moving in a motor pattern, whatever that is, getting good at it, getting confident, putting more weight on it. Basic overload to build tissue is really, really straightforward. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't need it. In fact, go to look at Eastern Bloc training styles, right? It is literally back squats, jumps, lunge. There is no fanciness. It is traditional training
and it's
done really
for
well.
10 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's as simple as that. You don't have to do anything gimmicky. I've seen trampoline jumping around sessions, right?
Yeah. And have you seen the God, there's no one. The woman doesn't watch this. I'm sure she won't. But one in David Lloyd where they throw, it's like a little trampoline.
Oh, they bounce back,
and it's just throw the ball. Oh mate, it's so bad. I've got Miss Rachel ringing around my head because of Luca. She was throw the bar, catch the bar, and I've just played a million times in our house all day. But just literally throw it against a trampoline and catch it. And these aren't 70, 80-year-olds doing this. It's 40-year-olds.
People that should be doing
being put through the ringer.
Yeah.
And just throw that against there and
catch it. Yeah, really well.
So fucking hell, man. Just lose the will to live.
And that comes circled back to how much time have you got? That is the most inefficient time.
If you're carving out the time to train,
don't train. Yeah, train hard. You should be blowing hard. It should be training.
Yeah.
You should feel the effect. I mean, training out and working out, probably two different things. Training is you have a goal in mind, we're going to get somewhere. Working out is we're going to turn up today and we're just going to see what we can do.
Yeah.
That's working out. There's no real goal.
Yeah.
We kind of rough, back of a fag packet, whereas training is right. We have a plan. It's got cycles to it, whatever it may be. That's training. know the difference between that and
Yeah.
just turning up and throwing a ball on a trampoline.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Guys, thank you so much for listening, watching, hopefully subscribing. If there is any takeaway from that, please go and pay a little bit of attention to your health routine. Start tracking some data and just build a little bit of a system for yourself. You can't wing it, you can't guess it. You wouldn't go into the next business year, financial year without a plan. Like what's your goal? What do you want to hit? Don't know. How are you gonna do that? Fuck knows. You wouldn't do it. And this is the most important area of your life. So put a plan in place, track that data. We promise you when you start doing that, spitting over myself and getting so excited. When you start doing that and you do it consistently, you will feel the shift mentally and you will feel incredible for doing it. You get this constant feedback internally of like, feel good for doing it, ticking the
Yeah.
boxes. Now I'm seeing results. Wow, this does work. Why didn't I do this before? It starts to spiral. So just commit to it. Like it is that is literally the other side of that, over that kind of precipice is the start of a really positive journey for you. So thank you very much. Comment any thoughts, any kind of topics you want Matt and I discuss relating to health and fitness. Nothing freaky. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.